welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly. Thank you for joining me. For those of you that are new here, I am a 44-year-old wife and mother. I have a 19-year-old son that is on the spectrum. He is considered level 3 autistic. He will always need assistance with his life. Today, one of the things I wanted to talk about, well, the only thing I'm talking about, is I wanted to do a story time on how my husband and I obtained guardianship over our son. So this isn't going to be a typical video for me. It's not going to be very vloggy. It's just going to be me giving more information about how we got guardianship for our child. Okay, so a few things that I wanted to go over. Number one, what is guardianship? And if I keep looking down, I have a ton of notes on my laptop that I wanted to review for this particular video. So guardianship is when you take a legal guardianship, you become the legal guardian to a person who the court has appointed to you. Otherwise, you have legal authority and care over their personal and property interest for this person. It is also called a ward. They're your ward, so they're warded to you by the state. So when we went, I know this sounds kind of strange to have to get guardianship of your own child, but it is a legal process that every parent at one point or another is going to have to go through, because once your child turns 18, they are considered legally an adult. And in my son's case, he doesn't have the cognition of what would be the typical cognition of a typical 18-year-old. And my son's 19 now. So this happened last year or 2 years ago, because he's almost 20. Yeah, it was about 2 years ago. So so this is what we did. So in order to obtain guardianship, we started early. We had some friends that friends of our sons, and so we talked to them a lot. And we talked, the things that you have to do in order to obtain guardianship for your child. And it is one of the annoying things that you have to do as a special needs parent, but it is necessary. So in our particular situation, Rob and I started early. Rob, I have to give my husband a ton of credit for this, because he took the reins on this. He was able to get information from a local resource that we have here in the area. And from that resource, they gave us the name of 2 attorneys. And here's the annoying thing that I would recommend this. I am typically one of those, I'm a DIYer. It's do it yourself. If you can do it yourself, just do it by yourself. But one of the things that we decided not to do by ourselves, because we are very much DIY, if you can Google it or YouTube it, we will do it. But in this particular situation, I highly recommend getting an attorney. Find an attorney in your area that is very knowledgeable of these types of situations. We found our attorney through a place called ARC. It's the Arlington Resource, I believe it's called the Arlington Resource Center. And we had gotten our attorney's name and another person's name. The attorney we wound up using got back to us faster, so that's the one we went with. So I will say this, do your research early. And I honestly think that's one of the things that saved us, because we did our research a year before we had to do guardianship. We got cost estimates. We got what was to be expected during the whole process of everything, and highly recommend starting early. So in our particular case, our attorney was really reasonably priced, very reasonably priced. Especially for everything that went into getting guardianship. She took care of all of the documentation. She took care of all the filing. She took care of all of that. And truth be told, because we were doing our guardianship during the pandemic, it was 2020. Everything kind of went through between August and September of 2020. So this was right before the vaccines came out. So we never stepped foot in a courthouse, never had to go to anybody's office to do any type of hearing or anything. Everything was done via Zoom in our home. And I'm not going to lie, that was, the pandemic sucked. The pandemic really sucked. My husband got sick. Our lawyer, unfortunately, was a lovely woman, and she unfortunately passed away because of COVID. And that was really unfortunate. Back to the topic. Highly recommend finding an attorney, doing your due diligence, and finding an attorney that, number one, knows their stuff, number two, you can afford. Our lawyer, we were very fortunate. We had some money set aside primarily for this reason. And luckily, the price that she gave us was the exact amount that we had. Thank God. And so we were able to give her, to pay her everything, and everything was taken care of like that. She did tell us that she was one of those attorneys that would let you make payments. Like, you had to have, I think, 25% down before she filed anything, and then you had to have everything paid before you had to go to court. So there are lawyers out there that will let you do that. You just have to do your research. Research. That's one of the things that I highly recommend for that. So, once you get yourself, a good attorney, they're going to have you they're going to need you to pick a third party. A second and a third party that will be your backups. Since we're Corey's parents, I had to pick a second and a third party that would be my backup our backups in case anything happened to Robert and I while Corey was still living. And this part was really, really hard. So, I love my mother and I love my sisters. Ends of the earth, I'd do anything for them. I would take a bullet for them. Yes, I love them. But when we were thinking about the people that we wanted to take care of Corey, we brought in a lot of factors for this. Number one, age is a factor. And my mother, I love her to pieces, but my mom's in her 70s. If anything happens to me, as I stand right now, could she take care of Corey? I think she could. But I'm talking about down the line. I don't know that she's going to be able to take care of him. Because here's the thing. My son is getting ready to turn 20, and he's a big dude. Corey's 6'1" and weighs like 300 pounds. So he's a big dude. And, I will say, as he's gotten older, his meltdowns have become less, but when he has one now, they're really scary. And I don't want to expose her to the possibility of her getting hurt. So, I decided not to go with my mother. That did kind of break my heart a little bit, but you have to do what's right for the situation you're in. My older sister, I love her to pieces, and she is actually the person that helps me out the most with Corey. I will say this, it's not a good idea for her to have guardianship over Corey. She has a lot of other things in her own life personally that she is dealing with, and I'm like, I love her and she can hang out with Corey and she helps me out so much, but I would never want to place that type of responsibility onto her. My second oldest sister, she's my therapist. I go to her for everything that bothers me. She's the person I vent to the most about everything, and I love her to pieces, but I also know her really well, and I also know that having that type of responsibility is not something that she wants ever. So don't get me wrong, all of these women in my son's life absolutely love and adore him, and they would do anything to help me out in a heartbeat, and I know that, and I love them for it. So who did we go with? Unfortunately, we couldn't go with anybody in Robert's family. Both of his parents have passed away, and his sister has passed away. He has a brother, but for for personal reasons, they're not in each other's lives, and that's where I'm going to leave it. So the people that we actually did pick to be our second and third party guardianships was my aunt and her daughter, my cousin. And here's why. My aunt has a lot of experience taking care of children with special needs, particularly autism. She has been employed by a family for, I want to say, the last 5 years, and one of their children is on the spectrum. So when that happened, she would come to me and ask me questions. So she has experience, and that makes me feel very comfortable. She's very good with him. They have a really sweet relationship, so I'm very comfortable with that choice. My aunt and my uncle are gonna, like, if anything happens, I know that Corey's in good hands. So my cousin, which is her daughter, she is also the youngest cousin of the first cousins. My grandma had 9 grandchildren. She's the youngest of the 9. So she also has 2 children, and she is also incredibly patient. This woman has the patience of a saint. Her and her husband, very sweet. They're very laid back. They're very chill. They're very good. They're amazing parents. They love their kids. It's just beautiful to see them with their children. And so she's very patient, and I trust her. I trust her immensely. So we had to make that choice. I chose my aunt, and I chose my cousin. So then they in turn had to speak to their individual partners about what we had asked. Luckily, everybody agreed. I was so grateful. Everybody agreed. So we got our second and our third parties, and then we had to fill out we had to fill out a ton of forms online. Luckily, everything was online, so it was really easy. So I filled everything out. I sent it back to them. And I will say this, our attorney's paralegal, she was amazing. She stayed on my butt to get that paperwork done, and I'm so grateful she did that. So thank you. So then after all the paperwork is filed, we had to have another meeting with something called the Guardian ad litem. So what this person is, they're assigned by the court to review the case and essentially be the guardian of the ward right before you go in front of the judge and get appointed guardianship. It's more like it's like Corey lived with us the entire time. Basically, all that means was that this person was in charge of his case and had to be the one to make the decision of whether or not we would be the guardians, whether or not, like, our second and third party would be the guardians. And they were in charge of also making the decision of whether Corey kept his right to drive. Was his right to drive, his right to vote, and there was another one. I know driving and voting were like a big deal, because I was very adamant. I was like, Corey will never be able to drive a car. He just won't. And it's just not in the cards for him, and that's fine. His right to vote, to be quite honest, I didn't even give it like a thought. I was just like, if he, like, because the thing is, it's like Corey's interested in a lot of things, but the thing is, he's not vocal about it. So she came back with us and stated that, we're going to take, he's not going to have the right to vote, and he's not going to have the right to drive. And I cannot remember the third one, and it is driving me nuts, and I cannot find it in my notes. Crap. Okay. Oh. So, here's the thing. 2020 was an election year, and at school, Corey was, they were talking about the election, and they were talking about who they wanted to vote for. And because, like, a lot of the kids in his class were the age of 18, they were talking about, well, if you register on time to vote, who are you going to vote for? all of this is complete, like, it's like I know about it, but at the same time I didn't think, I honestly, and I do, and I, I took it for granted. I took it for granted that he was going to have an opinion or even wanted to do this, so that was my fault. But when the guardian ad litem took that particular right away from him, my husband was like, no, he needs to have his right to vote. We need to get that back. I was like, oh, okay. So we contested that, and then the guardian ad litem said, okay, well, let me have a Zoom meeting with Corey. And I was like, okay, that's fine, we can set that up. And I was, hello? Okay, no one's there. I was stressed out because I said, listen, Corey talks to us, but I don't know if he's gonna, like, talk to you about it. We'll do what we can. And she's like, yeah, it's totally fine. I just got a few questions I want to ask him, yada, yada, yada. I was like, okay, great. So during that Zoom call, I unfortunately had to work that morning and I could not be on that call. I was very upset about it. But we were really fortunate because the guardian ad litem reinstated that right on his paperwork. So next election, he can vote. It's completely his, and he has that right to vote. So that hasn't been taken away. So that's great. I'm trying to see what I wanted to talk about next. So yeah, so after all was said and done, we got the right to vote back. All of the paperwork was submitted to the court. So the next step was we essentially had to appear before the judge to get appointed guardians of our son. But because we're living in the land of COVID, we actually never stepped foot into the courthouse. And it was actually done via conference call, which I was really surprised by. Our docket was the second one in line. So Robert and I had because we were told that they said it could take anywhere between 2 hours to 5 minutes. So we don't know where you are going to fall in the docket. We were like, oh, okay. So we just went ahead. We took the whole day off because we were like, because the court hearing didn't start until like 9:30 in the morning. And he was like, it makes no sense for us to go into work if we're going to be like 2 hours late. And I was like, well, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. So we took the whole day off. We wound up being the second docket called, and it honestly took less than 5 minutes. I remember the judge asked, are the guardians online? Is the attorney online? And we both said yes. And then the judge said something to our attorney, and it's something along the lines is all the paperwork here, they're free and clear. Everything is like, nothing needs to be contested. And she was like, everything is free and clear. Nothing needs to be contested. Everyone's in agreement with the guardian ad litem, and all the paperwork was said and good. And she was like, and they were like, okay, we approve. And they moved on to the next docket. And then we got off the phone, and then our lawyer emailed us and said, okay, everything's fine. So in a couple of weeks, you'll get the documentation. Excuse me. You'll get the documents. You'll get 4 letters. We essentially have 4 letters all stating that Robert Miller, Carly Miller are the guardians of Corey. They have guardianship. They can make decisions. They can make medical decisions, medical, financial, and property decisions for this individual. And then that's it. We have had full guardianship of our son since he was 18, which is not, it sounds like not that big of a deal, but truth be told, it's good to have this particular situation situated, because we had a dear family friend whose child had autism, but they hadn't gotten guardianship for them. So they were in a situation where it was like a medical situation and a decision needed to be made, but because their child didn't have the cognition to make that decision on their own, they couldn't take the decision of the parent because they didn't have legal guardianship. So it is very important, if you are the parent of a special needs individual that can't cognitively make those types of decisions, you have to be you have to do it. You simply just have to get the guardianship in one way or another. But you know, my recommendation, do your research, find a good family attorney, exhaust your resources. I know that people don't say, well, I don't have resources in my area. Truth of the matter is, even if you think you don't, you probably do. There are Facebook groups out there. You can even do a Google search and type autism resources in my area. It'll generate. Truth be told, that even if like our attorney, I wanted to say this, our attorney, we live in Arlington, but our attorney would do guardianships for Arlington, Fairfax, and Loudoun County, I believe. So 3 different counties, 3 different jurisdictions. So even if you feel like you can't find an attorney in your area, you can probably find one that will at least do the work somewhere around your area. So highly recommend doing your research. Get your money saved up. I know that sounds like such a cliche thing to say, but it's true. Like Rob and I don't make enough money to, like, we don't make enough money. I mean, I don't know if you know a lot about the area of Arlington, but it is really expensive to live here, and we make no money. So it's basically every month we're making sure that we pull it together just to make sure rent's paid. And we do pull it together. We make sure it happens every month. We have yet to be in the red with rent, and I'm praying to Jesus that never happens. But I'm just saying that, do your research. You can always find resources. They're always around. Ask other parents, reach out, ask. They do Facebook groups, Instagram groups. There are a ton of resources. I know this is going to sound crazy, but there are a ton of resources on TikTok. Like, literally, you can just get on TikTok, type in like guardianship lawyer, and they'll tell you more information than I can even tell you. But I'm just telling you what our experience was when we went to get guardianship for our son. So that is it. I hope this was helpful. I really hope that if you are in that situation and you need to make this decision, I hope I was able to give you some information and some guidance that you might not have otherwise known about. But anyway, it's getting late. I'm very tired. I think I'm catching Corey's cold. I'm not sure. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys stopping by and checking out my video. I have to say thank you to all my new subscribers. You guys have been so awesome. I'm elated with the new people that are finding me, and I really, really hope you guys stick around. There's so many other things that I want to do with this channel. I'm very excited. I'm hoping that you'll stick around and watch us grow. And thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much. I'm gonna see you in the next video. Okay, good night. Bye.